Welcome to the training site for DERA's higher level environmental farming scheme. This is part of a series of online training modules. For the training, you will need to watch this video and then answer correctly a number of questions on the subject. Further details about the environmental farming scheme are available on the DERA website. This includes the information sheets for each of the options. This training aims to help you understand what the various elements of your EFS hire agreement are and how they fit together. You'll also learn in more detail about the site-specific remedial management plan that was drawn up by your planner. This plan forms the basis of your EFS hire scheme agreement. It would be useful for you to have a copy of your own plan to hand while working through this training. The training covers a number of aspects, including giving you the aim of the hire scheme. It tells you what an EFS hire agreement consists of. It shows you how to access your agreement. It explains what is a site-specific remedial management plan, and within that, what is a management unit. It shows you the type of information that's provided for each management unit within the plan. Then it gives an example of a management unit. For those who have specialist plans, there's some discussion of that. Then there's comment on the type of checks that DERA will carry out on the scheme, and it finishes by telling you what you need to do after watching the video. EFS higher level is primarily aimed at strategically important sites, such as designated sites and at priority habitats and species. The scheme aims to bring these sites under favourable management. The management options and capital works which you have agreed to undertake as part of your hire agreement will contribute to this overall aim. An EFS hire agreement consists of, firstly, a commitment schedule. That's a list of the options and capital items, or NPIs, that you agreed to complete. Please note that capital items are also known as non-productive investments, or referred to as NPIs. Secondly, it has the site-specific remedial management plan, which includes a map. Thirdly, it has the EFS hire terms and conditions. And finally, in some cases where applicable, there is an EFS specialist plan. Please note that you must comply with your EFS hire agreement. How do you access your agreement? Well, you log into DERA Online Services, you select EFS, and then you select EFS hire agreement. On screen, you can view, download, or print your commitment schedule and your plan. You can also link to the site-specific remedial management plan map and the terms and conditions. The EFS specialist plans are available in hard copy where applicable. What is the site-specific remedial management plan? Well, this plan and associated map is the plan that your EFS planner prepared, discussed, and agreed with you. It states the EFS options and capital items that you should complete to bring your land under favourable management. Your plan includes detailed information about the management requirements you must follow, including work you must complete, and also the grazing periods and stocking rates. And it also tells you about the records that you must prepare and retain. And finally, it gives you some advice that you should follow. Within that, what is a management unit? Well, all fields in your plan have been grouped together into management units. A management unit is a field or group of fields that are managed together in a single block. For example, a group of fields that are grazed together at the same time is a management unit. Within the site-specific remedial management plan, there are 4 main sections of information, and these 4 sections are repeated for each management unit. Firstly, each management unit has a section on the background information relating to that unit. Background information may have reference to past grazing management of the land and site survey information, such as what environmental designation the land may have. Secondly, there will be a list of the EFS management plan actions. That is, the EFS options and capital items that are to be carried out in the management unit and the scheme years to which they are applicable. The third section is probably the most important information in your plan, and that is what you must do in relation to each management unit. This section covers the required grazing regime for the management unit. This will indicate the type of stock that can be used for grazing, the dates that grazing is allowed, and the maximum average stocking rate for the management unit. You will need to complete a separate training module on stocking rate as part of the EFS online training. This can be done after you complete this training. This third section also covers the management requirements for the management unit, including requirements around drainage, land improvements, field storage, weed control, grazing, scrub control, and any capital item requirements. The third section also stipulates the record keeping requirements for the management unit. Then fourthly and finally, section 4 of the management unit information outlines a range of advice for you to follow. We will now work through in detail an example of the information contained in your plan for each management unit. In the example plan shown on the screen, management unit number 1 has 4 fields, fields 4, 10A, 10B and 11. These 4 fields are grazed in one block at the same time. Grouping the fields together in this way will make it easier for you to complete the record keeping requirements of the scheme. As mentioned before, the first section for each management unit is some background information, past management description and site survey information. In this example, under past management description, it indicates that the land was extensively grazed by cattle in the past. And the site survey information indicates what the baseline habitat is. In this case, the baseline habitat is purple moor grass and rush pasture. This section also indicates the areas of concern within the particular management unit. In this example, there is a problem with heavy soft rush cover. Therefore, in conclusion, the remedies for this management unit are control soft rush cover and to continue to graze extensively. The second section shown for the management unit includes the EFS Management Plan Actions Table and the grazing regime. The EFS Management Plan Actions Table lists the EFS options and non-productive investments that must be completed for the fields in the management unit. It also indicates the years of the scheme and the total area in hectares to which these works are applicable. You will note that the total 7.57 hectares must be managed as per the purple moor grass and rush pasture management requirements for each of the 5 years of the scheme. Also note that only 2.67 hectares of this area is subject to rush control. The primary rush control must be carried out in year 1 only, whereas the follow-up rush control must be carried out in each of the years 2, 3, 4 and 5 of the agreement. You can identify which areas are subject to rush control from your site-specific remedial management plan map. The particular area will be labelled OVR on the map. OVR indicates that there is an overlapping non-productive investment on the option. The grazing regime section highlights the grazing you must implement on the fields in the management unit. Remember, the grazing regime is specific to each management unit, and it is likely it will vary between each management unit in your plan. Compliance with the grazing regime will be checked using evidence from record keeping and from on-spot checks. We will cover your record keeping requirements later in this training. The next section displayed for the management unit is the management requirements. You must follow all the management requirements that are specified for each management unit. There are two levels of management requirements. These are, firstly, management requirements for all scheme years for the option. This covers, for example, the requirements on drainage, field storage, land improvements, and weed control. Secondly, there are management requirements for individual years. For example, primary rush control is carried out in year 1. Follow-up rush control is carried out in some or all of the remaining years 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you are selected for a compliance check or an inspection, the inspector will check that you have followed these management requirements. The next section in the example covers the record-keeping requirements. You must keep and maintain records as specified in this section for each management unit. More detail on record keeping is covered in a separate training module, which you must also complete. If you are selected for a compliance check, that is an inspection, the inspector will check that you have prepared and retained the records for each management unit in your plan. Finally, in the example, there is an advice section for each management unit, which looks like this. Again, you'll note that two levels of advice are provided. Firstly, one for all scheme years, and secondly, a second level of advice for individual years, e.g. year 1, year 2, etc. At the end of your scheme agreement, you will find a summary table listing the maximum number of livestock units you can claim for the traditional native breeds, that is Irish Moil cattle option, only if this is applicable to your plan. In the above example, the agreement does not include Irish Moil cattle. If information about the record of engagement with statutory bodies and other organisations was provided by your EFS planner, the details will be noted on this section, together with the details of any other funding sources identified by your EFS planner. Also, at the end of the scheme agreement documentation, you will find the Download Site-Specific Remedial Management Plan map facility. You must view your scheme map to be sure where each EFS option and non-productive investment is to be located. When you press the Download Map button, you will then be able to view each of your scheme fields in detail. This slide shows an example of a field map. Note that this map tells you that the field must be managed as purple moor grass and rush pasture, denoted by the abbreviation PRG and the purple colour. However, this field also has an overlaid non-productive investment denoted by the abbreviation OVR and the blue blue colour. The overlaid NPI in this case is primary and follow-up rush control. Therefore, the map of this field indicates that the entire field must be managed for purple moorgrass and rush pasture, and that there must be rush control carried out on the OVR blue area. Please note that at the end of your map there is a legend key that explains what each of the colours and abbreviations mean. For more detail on the map abbreviations relevant to your own agreement, consult the EFS Management Plan Action section of each management unit in your site-specific remedial management plan. This gives the full title of each EFS option and capital item applicable to your agreement. Some agreements will include a specialist plan relating to particular specialist options, for example, bank-side reprofiling. If you have a specialist plan as part of your agreement, a hard copy specialist plan will have been issued to you from the department. You will also see reference to a specialist plan in the management requirements section of the relevant management unit. The specialist plan will detail information such as shown here, namely site information for the option, the current management, the management requirements, the key constraints, and a summary of the proposed work programme. It is important to read your specialist plan prior to commencing work. In particular, make sure you know the detail and comply with the Management Requirements Section 3 within the specialist plan. DERA will undertake checks to verify that your agreement work has been completed and is up to the required standard. The checks that DERA undertake will include firstly office-based administrative checks, secondly technologically based checks such as control with remote sensing, and finally on-site checks such as rapid field visits or on-the-spot checks. The range of checks done will be based on your agreement and the detailed management requirements set out in your site-specific remedial management plan. Remember, these management requirements stipulate what you must do, but also they may stipulate a range of actions which must not be undertaken in the specific management unit. Both these aspects will be checked by DERA for compliance with the scheme requirements. And now finally, as we come to the last slide, there are a number of things that you should do next. You should now complete the questions which follow the video on the lesson site. It is essential that you do these so as to register that your training for this section has been complete. Secondly, you should also read your agreement documentation, including your site-specific remedial management plan in detail. And thirdly, you should complete the training for record keeping, stocking rate, and any other applicable options or capital items. The links to this further training are found on the dashboard of your Moodle site.